Okay, we're back live again, and I wanted to do a live stream talking more about financial news because at one point I was doing that, but I kind of got away from that, and I want to get back into doing that again. Because I think that is so important. For a lot of people, and that's always the type of platform that I wanted my platform to be. As far as like a lot of the social stuff, like the social stuff to me is redundant and it gets old and stuff over time, man. You get tired of talking about social stuff. And I know me personally, I have been tired of it. I've been tired of it for quite some time now. I'm at the point now I don't even really want to watch the stuff anymore. I'm just far more interested in the financial news and stuff like that. And people like Erica Williams and people like that who are into that type of stuff and who specialize in that type of stuff. That's who I mainly watch now. That's pretty much who I mainly watch now. I'm not watching a lot of the social commentators anymore now. I mean, the closest to a social commentator that I still watch now is probably the Angry Man, and with him, I mainly watch his conservative content. You know what I mean. But that being said, okay, let's get into this. Okay. So this is interesting. Okay, China's Z calls for measures against unhealthy development of digital economy. Okay, President Xi Jinping has called for improved regulation and governance of China's. Okay, excuse me, excuse me, of China's digital economy to guard against its unhealthy development, as Beijing aims to boost the sector's contribution to the country's growth. Okay, in an essay in ruling Communist Party's publication Kiyoshi on Saturday, Z called for focusing on key areas, including integrated circuits, displays, communications equipment, and intelligent hardware. And China should cultivate a number of enterprises with international competitiveness and leading ecological firms control over industrial chains to create world-class digital industry clusters, he said. We must see that compared with large and powerful countries in the global digital economy, China's digital economy is big but not strong and fast but not superior. Okay, Z also called. Now, did he say this or is okay? Z also called for regulation and standardization to plug regulatory loopholes and prevent monopolies and disorderly expansion of capital in the world's second largest economy. Okay. In the course of rapid development, China's digital economy has also displayed some unhealthy and irregular seeds and trends that not only affect the healthy development of the digital economy, but violate laws and regulations and pose a threat to national economic and financial security, he said. China should also improve its national security system with a focus on strengthening digital economy, early warning, prevention, and control systems to ensure the security of key technologies, important industries and facilities, strategic resources, and leading enterprises. Okay. Z's essays follow a plan issued by China's cabinet on Wednesday for the development of the digital economy, which aims to increase the sector's share of national GDP by pushing technologies like 6G and big data centers. That plan also highlighted challenges, including a lack of innovation capacity in key areas and weak governance. Okay, reporting. Okay. Now, okay. Now he's not really good. This article doesn't really go into a lot of details about what they're really saying when they say China calls for measures against unhealthy development of digital economy. Looks like Chinese president, he's just calling for more regulation of the digital economy in China. That's really what the gist of this is. They just want more regulation of this stuff, and who knows what the effects of that could be. You know, that could possibly slow China's growth. You know, he's saying that it's going to be detrimental to its growth, but these if they implement policies like this, it could slow China's growth, man. You know, so we'll just have to see. Now, okay. Oh damn! I might need some. Get up and get some water. Hold on. Oh. All right, so back. All right, all right. Yeah. Investing. Goldman Sachs destroys one of the most persistent myths about stocks. Okay. Let's talk about the CAPE ratio. It's one of the most widely followed stock market valuation and investing metrics. It's being talked about more as investors wonder whether stocks are poised to lose ground in 2022. Unfortunately, the signal of doom it supposedly sends is a myth. CAPE, or cyclical adjusted price earnings, was popularized by Nobel Prize winning economist Robert Shiller. It's calculated by taking the price of the S&P 500 and dividing it by the average 10 years worth of earnings. When CAPE is above its long-term average, the stock market is thought to be expensive. Okay. Many market watchers use above average CAPE readings as a signal that stocks should underperform or even fail as it reverts back to its long-term mean. But CAPE's mean doesn't actually have much pull. Okay. While valuations feature importantly in our toolbox to estimate forward equity returns, we should dispel an oft-repeated myth that equity valuations are mean reverting. Goldman Sachs analysts wrote in a new note to clients. Okay. The analysts began their discussion by noting that, oh shoot, and I need to be sharing my screen. Hold on, I'm sorry. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Okay, yeah, now this is better right here. All right. The analysts began their discussion by noting that the problematic assumption that a mean exists for metrics like CAPE to revert to. Mean reversion assumes that market valuation metrics are stationary and their long-term means do not change. They wrote, okay. Okay. In recent decades, valuation metrics have been persistently high, which have actually forced these long-term means to move higher. Not long ago, GMO's Jeremy Grantham made this observation to argue that valuations were a new normal at elevated levels. Okay. We have not found any statistical evidence of mean reversion. At any rate, the case for mean reversion is weak. We have not found any statistical evidence of mean reversion, the Goldman Sachs analyst wrote. Equity evaluations are a bounded time series. There is some upper bound since valuations cannot reach infinity, and there is a lower bound since valuation cannot go below zero. However, having upper and lower bounds does not simply imply valuations are stationary and revert to the same long-term mean. Okay, the Goldman analysts did the math, and the key metric to look at in the chart below is the statistical significance. Okay, the statistical significance over the full sample is 26%. This means that there is only 26% confidence that the Shiller Cape is mean reverting and 70% confidence that it is not. The traditional threshold to consider a relationship statistically significant is 95%. Okay. In other words, you can't rely on CAPE to gravitate towards any mean. The Goldman analysts, however, weren't done busting the myth and took issue with the concept of the CAPE ratio in general. Even if we ignore this threshold, the time between valuations crossing into their 10th decile and reverting to their long-term average is beyond a reasonable investment horizon for a tactical decision, they said. For example, the Shiller Cape entered its 10th decile in August 1989, but did not revert to its long-term mean for 13 years. Okay? In other words, trading based on the assumption CAPE will mean revert could lead to indeterminate years of getting smoked by the market. Okay? It's worth repeating, there's not much new here. The Goldman analysts have addressed this myth in reports published in 2013, 2014, 2018, and 2019. They know that this isn't just a CAPE-specific issue, but an issue with many valuation metrics, including valuation metrics applied to non-U.S. stock markets. Okay. I flagged this problem recently here and here. I've written about it at Yahoo Finance here and at Business Insider here and here. Prominent folks have been sounding off on CAPE issues for years, including veteran Wall Street strategist Sean Darby, finance professor Jeremy Siegel, legendary investors Warren Buffett, and blogger extraordinaire Michael Batnick, and even Shiller himself has warned about CAPE's reliability. Still, a simple Google search for CAPE ratio will return years of articles about how the market is about to crash. As you can see, it's being talked about now as stocks have had a bumpy ride to start this year. The big picture. You want to emphasize that valuations alone are not sufficient measures for underweighting equities. The Goldman Sachs analyst wrote, high valuations do not reach some magical target and then revert to some stable mean. Furthermore, the time period for valuations to reach such long-term average is highly variable and therefore uncertain. Valuation metrics like the CAPE and forward PE aren't totally worthless. By definition, they offer a simple way of estimating the premium an investor pays for a company's earnings. However, they simply don't do a great job of telling you what stock prices will do in the coming days, months, or even years, okay? So I don't see how this article disproves this method of the valuation of the I don't, because the one they looked at that started in 1989, it took 13 years. So that's still close to the 10-year. Okay, so it says, okay, for example, the Shiller Cape entered its 10th decile in August 1989, but did not convert to its long-term mean for 13 years. So 10 to 13 years, it's still within the range. So I still think that there still could be a lot of relevance for this. I don't know why Goldman Sachs has this agenda against this valuation method of the stocks. Maybe they just want people to continue to invest into the stock market next year. They don't want the stock. It looks like they just don't want the stock market to cool down. They want people to keep putting money in there and could keep feel comfortable about putting money in there, probably when they shouldn't, because like I said, the market is kind of reaching its peak. And it's probably going to revert to its mean soon, because a lot of these stocks like Tesla and stuff like that, they just seem overvalued. They just all people putting all this money into Tesla, all this money into Bitcoin and stuff, and it's reaching these crazy numbers. And it's I've always said, something has to give, So that's just my thing on it. Okay, all right. So let's check this out. Shkreli ordered to return $64 million is barred from drug industry. Okay, let's check this out. A federal judge on Friday ordered Martin Shkreli to return $64.6 million in profits he and his company reaped from inflating the price of the life-saving drug Daraprim and barred him from participating in the pharmaceutical industry for the rest of his life. Wow. Okay. The ruling by U.S. District Judge Denise Cote came several weeks after a 7-day bench trial in December. The Federal Trade Commission in 7 states brought the case in 2020 against the man dubbed in the media as Pharma Bro. Okay, Shkreli was CEO of Turing Pharmaceuticals, later Viera, when it jacked up the price of Daraprim. It treats a rare parasitic disease that strikes pregnant women, cancer patients, and AIDS patients. He defended the decision as capitalism at work and said insurance and other programs ensure that people who need Daraprim would ultimately get it. But the move sparked outrage from medical centers, to the 2016 presidential campaign trail, where Hillary Clinton termed it price gouging and future President Donald Trump called Shkreli a spoiled brat. Okay. So they got 126 comments. It's like, okay, sorry, it's not capitalism at work when most of your money comes from government program. Far from it. Should be paying penalties and interest to the Medicare and Medicaid programs too. Okay. Wow. So this guy did was jacking up the price of these drugs. That's insane. That's crazy. You know what I mean? That's crazy. That this guy went to that length, to do that. Well, now they're banning him for life from this industry, and he got to return $64 million. That's a lot of money. Now, how much money did he really make overall from all this? Okay, he could have made hundreds of millions. And this 64 million, that could be just a fraction of what he really made. But then you playing these games, when you playing games like this, it affects people's lives like this. You're talking about a major pharmaceutical drug that has to do with a rare but very serious medical condition. Okay. And there's going to be some consequences to that, man. There's going to be a lot of repercussions with that. You know, the wrong things, if the wrong things happen. All right. All right. I want to look at maybe real estate or something like that. Um, Hold on. All right. We're gonna do it. Okay. All right. Okay. So agents scramble to meet demand in Rochester. All right. You gotta be a member to read this stuff. Okay. Uh, uh, okay. America's housing market is in the grip of an inflation storm. And housing is the largest expense for many Americans, and it's taking a bigger bite out of people's wallets as far as the consumer price index is concerned. Okay. The shelter component of the inflation barometer increased 0.4% between November and December, down slightly from 0.5% uptick the prior month. Nevertheless, annual growth set records, in particular the component that measures the equivalent rent that homeowners would pay for their houses rose 3.8% between December 2020 and December 2021, the highest rate since 2007. Okay. The cost of shelter is the biggest component of the overall consumer price index, reflecting the importance of rent and mortgage payments and a household's budget. For starters, it's a necessarily most people can't avoid having to pay for housing whether you rent or own. Okay. Renters and buyers face similar headwinds. Renters and buyers face similar headwinds for slightly different reasons. For buyers, supply constraints have pushed up prices for housing, exacerbated by rising costs for materials such as lumber. Renters are seeing rents increase as people gradually return to cities. Okay. But even as housing inflation has risen to record levels in terms of the index, the increases seem small by comparison to other barometers of home prices. That's because the COVID-19 pandemic has complicated our ability to gauge housing inflation even further, especially because the CPI is based on survey data. Since activity is just now returning to cities that experienced an exodus at the onset of the pandemic, and if existing leases take time to reset every year, the shelter CPI index lags home price movement, said Catherine Judge, director and senior economist at CIBC Capital Markets. The shelter index is still playing catch up. Okay. A leading measure of home prices, the S&P Core Logic KK Schiller home price indices notched a 19.1% annual gain in home prices nationally in October, the most recent month for which data is available. Meanwhile, the most recent national rent report from real estate website Apartment List showed that the median rent nationwide increased 17.8% over the course of 2021. This discrepancy between the housing inflation picked up by the CPI and the rising housing prices seen with other indicators by design, economists said. The housing component of the CPI are designed to measure the cost of living from month to month, said Paul Ashworth, chief North America economist at Capital Economics. So CPI housing shouldn't fully reflect changes in capital values. And that makes sense. For the vast majority of homeowners, the cost of owning a home does not vary month to month or even year to year, because these days most people make use of fixed rate mortgages. So while taxes may fluctuate some, the cost in terms of the mortgage won't change after they buy the home unless they refinance. Okay. It's a similar for renters. Most people who rent their homes will only encounter higher prices when it comes time to move or renew their leases. And even then, those who choose the latter option will typically see smaller increases in rent than those who relocate, as those by nature measures of consumer spending may downplay the increases in rents and home prices being seen more broadly. Hey, has housing inflation hit its peak? Most economists agree that the CPI's measure of housing costs still has room to rise, even though other housing cost barometers have already displayed signs of slowing growth. The shelter cost gauge in the CPI tends to lag measures of home prices by at least a year, maybe two, said Stephen Stanley, chief economist at Amherst Pierpoint. So the urge in home prices that began in mid-2020 only began to show up in the CPI just within the last few months. Okay, but how long the state of housing inflation will take to reach a peak before normalizing is a matter of debate. In the past, the CPI's measure of rents for homeowners has typically lagged other measures of market rents by between 9 and 12 months, according to a report from the Core Logic released in September. Okay, my guess is that market rents growth probably hit the top in December, which means that the shelter component can accelerate until August, said Christophe Barrat, chief economist strategist at Market Securities France SA. Some analysts, however, believe the inflation peak could come far sooner. Jefferies chief economist Anita Markowska and money market economist Thomas Simons wrote in a research note Wednesday that the CPI's measure of rent could hit its peak as soon as February or March. The CPI housing components have been undershooting market rents, which have risen much more sharply, and it's not entirely clear why they wrote, adding that because the CPI's housing barometers have not even begun to catch up at this point, we probably have to assume that they won't. What does this mean for the Fed? In light of runaway inflation, the Federal Reserve has signaled that it will take swift action to cool down the economy. Central bankers have indicated they will both increase interest rates and winnow down their bond buying activities as a result. Even if housing inflation does hit its peak in the coming months, Americans and the Fed alike can't expect the situation to correct itself quickly. For starters, the pandemic era home buying craze has proven that millennials have entered the housing market, and they are legion. They are about 46.1 million strong. Okay, Barrett said, and make up the most significant demographic patch ever recorded. Okay. Many of these would-be homeowners were delayed in their decision to purchase property because of their large student loan burdens, he said. Meanwhile, the supply of homes for sale remains near record low levels with little sign of budging. These millennial buyers are not only pushing home prices higher, but so long as they remain delayed in achieving home ownership, they also will continue to prop up rents. Okay. The Fed's arsenal of tools may not be able to address the resulting housing crunch that should ensure high housing inflation is here to stay. Okay. Rising long term interest rates could push mortgage rates higher and therefore slow housing prices growth, but it won't be sufficient to reverse the positive trend, Barber said. The only way to claim that calm the housing market significantly is a supply shot, given that I don't see U.S. politicians implementing rent caps. Okay. So there you have it. All right, there you have it. Um, So they're saying they don't know when inflation is going to peak. Could be February, could be later in the year, but this housing inflation is bad right now, man. This is really bad. And I'm a renter myself. I'm someone who actually is considering buying a home possibly soon, but you know, it's hard for a lot of people right now, especially with this inflation the way it is right now. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm gonna go ahead and end it right there. Let me know what y'all think. Get the likes up, leave comments, subscribe. Peace.